I mean, growing up, you watch dumbass movies like American Pie, and you think that's what college is gonna be like. Art started to become like a therapy in a way. Being in uni, dealing with like you can't pay for fees, you're trying to finish school, sexuality, all of that. So it's like that was when it started to take shape as like it's more spiritual than just practice. I'm like, wait, you can do stuff on the wall, and people just come and look at it. I feel like that's when I was like, oh, okay. First thing I wanted to be ever, I think, was a pastor. A lot of us, yeah. With my first CD I bought, when I really started listening to albums as opposed to just singles, was the one, the Cool Machine 2.
I think that's probably top 5 out of 9.
Yeah.
Debut albums, for sure.
I'm talking about like Good Kid, Mad City, Kendrick.
Yeah.
Kendrick was this year. It's cool, but it's like Kendrick of that year was hungry. Fashion was horrendous. Oh my god. Like the I'ma keep year.
I'ma keep. Shout out I'ma keep.
Oh my gosh. I even had a business when I was 15.
Really? Would you label it as fluid?
Not fluid. I would say maybe more gay. If we're talking about like sexual orientation, yeah, that's what I would say.
You can move as close as possible. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of TMI. Today we have a guest I'm really excited about. He is an upcoming artist, really good at what he does. He's also an engineer by day. Please welcome Yomi. Hey Yomi, tell the people about yourself.
My name is Yomi.
You go by a few names, don't you?
God.
give us the.
So my first name is actually Ebun. But I low-key hate the name because I don't know. It means gift. It's also like it's supposed to be a girl's name.
Okay.
But yeah, after like primary school, I changed it to Yomi. And then when I came to uni, I changed it to Bayo because I just wanted to switch it up.
What's next? What's the next name change?
I don't know. Yeah, but my name is Yomi. My last born, that's not troublesome. Yoruba boy, that's not a demon.
Okay.
And yeah, I think you already said like artist, engineer, trying to survive in this adulting life. But yeah,
let's take it back to like start, like real beginning, right?
Jeez, throwbacks.
Yeah, real throwback. If I wanted to like, if I met you and wanted to like make sense of like who you are, give me the information I would need to have about your upbringing and childhood for me to understand who you are today. Paint me a picture.
Right. I mean, I guess it all starts Nigeria, right? Like I'm Nigerian, and I'm from O, so a little town, in Ondo State, O, and I grew up in Akure.
Yeah.
And I went to school in Benin, so I'm sort of like all these like little places. But yeah, I grew up in Akure. It's kind of country, to be honest. I don't know. I haven't really thought of Nigeria in like within the country or urban context.
Country is only for the West.
Yeah, okay, exactly. But Akure is like I'll consider it a big country.
Yeah, for sure.
And I went to I lived in Akure for 6 years, and then I went to till I was like 10, and then I went to boarding school in Benin City. And I did 6 years there, between there and Akure, there and Abuja to see my sister there in Lagos. And then after school, we moved to Lagos. And then from Lagos, I came here.
Okay.
So a little bit like,
Hopping.
Well,
I want to hear a bit more about the upbringing, what that was like, the childhood.
Right. So I'm the last born, not troublesome. So we're like 5 kids. Actually, we're 6. We're 6 kids. And I'm the last one of the 6. I have 2 sisters, 3 brothers.
The math checks out.
Yeah, so my sister, who's above me, she's 8 years older than me. So that means like even though I'm the last one, I have all these siblings. There was a good portion of that I felt like I'm the only kid, right? Because they're all grown and they've left the house. But I also went to boarding school, so I didn't really feel it that much. But coming the years where we're all of us kids in the house. I don't have too many memories of that because like I've forgotten most of them. But yeah, like growing up in Akure, I don't know. I feel like I don't know what to compare it to. It's just
What did a typical day look like?
typical day. So country, very country. Like my family, we had a poultry. We also at some point had like maybe 8 dogs.
Wow.
And we have like a bunch of trees in the house. Like there's a guava tree, there's a cashew tree, there's a pineapple, not tree, but like shrubs. There's a pawpaw tree, pear tree. Yeah, so it's like
The fact that you remember all of it is also impressive.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit nostalgic actually. But and my mom, she owns like a restaurant. My dad was a lawyer, and I was mommy's boy for sure. I think I'm still mommy's boy.
I think being the last kid with an 8-year gap,
right,
that puts you right in the wheelhouse of.
It's like that kid. Boy. Oh, the house is too boring. Let's have another.
So you're like you're a space filler basically.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. And what was it like growing up with so many siblings? I know you said you don't remember a lot of the full house periods, but what parts do you remember? And like, how did you enjoy? How did you like growing up with many siblings?
Right. I mean, I don't remember a lot of the young like baby years. I have a few memories like spotty, but a lot of my teenage years I remember spending with my siblings too, because they were in uni. So oftentimes I would like leave school, secondary school, like midterm break or some shit, and I'll go to see my sister in Abuja. I'll go to see my brother. But it was great because you sort of have like this, I would say, a lot of these role models to like mimic in a way.
And a vast array also,
yeah, exactly,
right? Like,
exactly. And then
different
resources
personalities.
too. Exactly.
Resources.
And my brothers, they always had the latest like console. So I didn't have to worry about that. I'll just play their PlayStation.
A lot of nice hand-me-downs I also guess.
A lot of hand-me-downs. They taught me how to download movies on the internet. It's invaluable stuff, man. That made like, you know, that was the shit back then. Like getting the latest movies, being able to watch it. Hand-me-down laptops, hand-me-down phones. Not hand-me-down car yet, because I was too young to drive.
Yeah.
It was my brother had this one car that I really liked.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. It was cool, and we're pretty close now, despite the age gap, which I really cherish. We have this group chat that we're all just banter every weekend. So.
I love it.
It's good.
And did that help shape who you are today? Are you
100%
family oriented? Like, tell me how that childhood sort of like you can see what you can see in yourself today from that childhood.
Right. I mean, 100%. I'm family oriented. I feel like we've sort of had this, maybe a history, because my mom, she works in, I would say, hospitality. She worked in hospitality. She had a restaurant, best restaurant in Akure that year.
Hey,
hands down.
I love to
Ask
hear
anybody.
I love to hear it. Streets know.
Right, streets know, exactly. Being in the hospitality business, especially being successful, I'd say, in the hospitality business, means she was always hosting or always like having events and everything. And I think it sort of rubbed off on us because there was always a Christmas party. There was always the holidays, we always had something. We're always hosting in some way. And so even when everybody left the house, everybody to some capacity still sort of did that kind of thing. Like my brothers, when they moved to Lagos, they were living in Surulere that year, but it was always like a Christmas thing.
Christmas
I remember this particular one where I was in charge of barbecue. So,
how old were you?
So I was on the grill.
How old were you?
I don't know, maybe this was before Canada, so 14.
Wow.
14,
And they put you in charge of the grill?
Bro, trust me, I've done a lot of like age inappropriate shit. But it's
we'll get into that.
But like safe.
Okay.
Safe age.
Okay. In case the
right, in case the
authorities
guys are watching.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say huge impact. Even like with the art stuff, like my brother, I think my third brother, at some point, now he's a developer, but at some point he was doing like they were playful, I guess. That was what I noticed, right? Like because I'm like this little kid looking up to them, right? But they were very playful. Like they had friends who were in entertainment, like either doing music or doing videography or something. So at some point he was even doing videography, I think. Or I have specifically a picture where he's like controlling the camera tips. I was like, okay.
So they were into a lot of things, and
yeah.
So that sort of inspired you, like that? Were you just like a kid in a candy store, like watching your siblings do stuff, and you're like, oh my god, this is so cool? Because when most people looking up to their siblings. Everything that your sibling does is cool, right?
Exactly.
At some point, especially like if you have a good relationship with them,
Exactly.
right? So you were just like so intrigued by all they were doing, I guess.
Yeah, because they were good in school, but it wasn't like when I looked at them, it wasn't like, oh, they're going to study. I felt like they were going to have fun, right? They went to Igbenedion, Okada.
Yeah.
So when I was choosing a secondary school, I chose Igbenedion Secondary School because I thought it was going to be close to the university.
Like proximity,
but they're actually like an hour, 30 minutes apart. So I was disappointed. But it was that kind of thing where it's like, you know, they looked like they were having fun. So it made me sort of, you know, open to that too, like, you know, especially the gaming part, you know, like all those things. Like, to me, it was cool because I would take it to school and be like, oh, shit, look at my stuff. But it's like a hand-me-down or something. But it's like, you know.
I always noticed that with people that had older siblings, and people that were the older siblings, I think you just had a lot more stuff, right? Yeah, whether your stuff or like stuff that was handed down or just you know the latest games, latest like you know clothes and stuff. So I'm the last kid, so I kind of relate to that. What other influences did you have growing up? Like what were you into? You've spoken about your siblings, like having their hands a lot of stuff, entertainment, videography, all that stuff. What were you into? Like what were you watching on TV? What were you playing with? What was your, you know?
Right. I think my earliest memory would probably be music or fashion. Fashion was horrendous. Oh my God. Like the I'ma keep year.
I'ma keep. Shout out I'ma keep.
Oh my gosh. I
you had purple skinny jeans just for the record.
No. I did not. But it was I mean, at that point, it was cool, right?
Yes,
that was
for
it,
sure.
You know, it's like, I mean, now I'm cringing, but
that
was
Supras.
And it was like when the internet was just becoming a thing, right?
Yes,
like
yes.
Twitter, BlackBerry, everybody wanted to be like hip on what was happening.
Yes. And you wanted to appear with the coolest stuff.
Yeah, you know, like Toms or like snapbacks, varsity jack, exact. Flip soles, bro. Yeah. Oh my God. So yeah, I feel like that was. I just knew I was interested in this stuff. Like it wasn't specific, but I knew I was interested in it. Music, definitely. Like you know, downloading MP3s. My mother's business. There was a guy downstairs who sold like CDs. Oh, obviously counterfeit. You know, so you know how it goes.
As it was.
Yeah, like DVDs and stuff. But he sold CDs and then he would sell like albums when they come out and stuff like that. So that was like my entry point into like music mostly. I think my first CD I bought that I remember from music when I really started listening to albums as opposed to just singles was the one they call Machine to Machine to Machine. Yes. So that was like the first record that was like, oh, okay.
Actually, I have a vivid. I think that was actually my first record also. And I have a vivid memory of buying it in traffic.
Yeah.
I think it was on Ozumba. Like, just I have this very vivid memory, and I'm like, I was so happy, you know, like I bought my first record. I couldn't wait to get home to like, you know, put it in and play it.
Yeah. Also, it was a great album. Jesus.
I think that's probably top 5 out of Nige.
Yeah.
Debut albums for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I just feel like maybe because of the place I grew up in, it was very open to like do stuff. You know, like I was always
there was a freedom you had.
There was a freedom, yeah. Like I even had a business when I was 15.
Really?
Believe it or not, I was selling recharge cards.
You were selling what?
I was selling recharge cards.
Wow.
So my mom still loaned me some money, like I don't know, 10K, and I bought like the popular ones like MTN Glow, I don't know, Airtel or whatever. And I'll buy them bulk. When you buy them bulk, you get like a little discount. And then she owned the restaurant, right? So I would sell them to customers. And then they knew,
the family.
Yeah, exactly. But they knew like, oh, this little kid is here just doing. And I was always around. So I think my first one, she gave me 10K. I made 15K.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm proud of that actually.
Hey, that's the origins. When you become an art tycoon, those are origins you look back to, right? Anything else like, you know, maybe toy-wise or cartoons you watch or like
100%. Like so growing up, I think so there were a lot of hand-me-downs, but like I didn't toy-wise there weren't a lot of toys again because of the age gap, you know. 8 years is a lot of time to like discover a lot of stuff.
That's true.
But I vividly remember I had this one toy robot. It was like white that did limited motion. It was just like back and forth.
Yeah.
And then the eyes turned blue.
Oh wow.
And then I had a Lego set. That was like my prized one.
Wow.
Right? It wasn't, today they have advanced Legos, right? Like spaceships and ships and stuff. But this was like old Lego, just shapes. You know, the thick brick ones.
The hard
Thick,
ones.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was just like a bunch of shapes. And then you have to get creative with that, right? It's like you have a rectangle and you have a square, but you want to create a robot. How do you do it? And then you have this boxy robot with like square shoulders and stuff.
And like usually, like how many different ways can you put the same pieces
right,
together?
exactly. What can I possibly make with this? But it was like the possibilities were endless. Like, you just make something that didn't. So I think looking back now, I was just thinking about it the other day. I see that influence in my work today because I'm using a lot of shapes, using a lot of color. So, you know, it's one of these things that just seep into it without you realizing. But yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your journey to Canada.
Yeah, funny one. So you know, when you're in SS3, everybody writes WIAC.
Yes. Yeah. Like the customary exams for like your final year in high school.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember Bronte College in Toronto. They came to our school to like advertise, right? I was like, oh, wait, you can go to Canada. And I was excited about the idea.
You could go to Canada?
Yeah, like you could go to Canada. And I'm like, okay. And I was excited about the idea, especially because a lot of my friends were trying to do that too. So it was like we're all finishing school in a year. A few of us are trying to take this exam. And then, you know, they put the fees there. So everything is there. And like, you know, I took the flyer home. Momsi was hip on the idea. And then I wanted to make it like solid. This is a podcast secret. So I intentionally like flunked jam. Just so it's just so
your only option.
Yeah, so the only option would be to. But I didn't flunk it crazy. I just like moderately, you know, like just
below average.
Yeah.
I can't wait for your mom to hear this.
I know. Sorry. But yeah, it worked out. So, but yeah, I finished school. I remember Bronte wasn't really working out, and then I eventually changed it to Great Lakes, and it was supposed to be a crash course. So I stayed in Lagos I finished school in 2012. So from July to December, I was in Lagos, which was one of the best times of my like child years.
Just like, I guess the freedom.
Just the freedom.
And I guess you are mature enough and also free enough. Like a good combination, right?
Exactly. And then Momsi wasn't home the entire time.
Oh.
My siblings weren't home. Some of them either in school, they had their own place or whatever. So the freedom was just, it was nice. It was like, okay, and you're just at home doing stuff.
Yeah.
So I like that. I feel like I grew up in a very free environment that wasn't carelessly free, but it wasn't choking. You know, it was like free to like explore.
And talk to me about like new country, new responsibilities.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. But it was less weird because there were a lot of us, right?
Oh, yeah.
I got to Great Lakes, and then there's like 20, 30, 40 other Nigerians. And it's like you're in boarding school all over again. It was the best thing.
So you felt like an extension of Nigeria?
Yeah. Because I mean, I've been in boarding school for like 6 years. So it wasn't new. It was perfect. It was good. So, and then Great Lakes it was just free, man. We're just going to parties. And Great Lakes was kind of, it wasn't strict.
Okay.
Right. I mean, we had curfew and all this stuff, but like it wasn't that bad.
It wasn't rigid.
Yeah. So coming here was like a breeze. I mean, you still have to study, you still have to do all this stuff, but it was good. And actually, when I got here, that was the first time I went to an art gallery for the first time when I was in Great Lakes.
Wow.
So that was like a turning point.
That seems like a core memory. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Funny thing is, I don't even remember the gallery name. I don't remember the work. I just know that we had like this trip. It was a crash course in the summer. And she's like, oh, today we're going, great teacher. She's like, oh, today we're going to an art gallery. I'm like, okay, yeah, field trip. It was Spadana here, actually.
Wow.
So, yeah. And we went to the gallery. I'm like, wait, you can do stuff on the wall. And people just come and look at it. And it was cool. I feel like that's when I was like, oh, okay. Like that course in general was what made me start to think about it a little bit more.
Okay.
Like, it was
a bit of an origin story.
Yeah. Because I did my first painting there. I mean, I did art back in secondary school, but you know, it's different in Nigeria. You know, it's like, okay, it's just
scrappy art.
Yeah. But here she like promoted it as a career path.
Okay.
which was different. It's like, okay, people actually do this. And then she starts telling you about all these other artists, and you're looking at this work, and you're like, oh, wow, this is interesting. Yeah.
So fast forwarding to uni,
Yeah.
you're done with Great Lakes, you moved to uni. I guess firstly, what was your degree in?
Engineering. Yeah, I mean, we're Nigerian. Yeah.
What- What informed that decision?
So, okay, first thing I wanted to be ever, I think, was a pastor. I feel like
A
a lot
pastor?
of us, yeah, which is weird.
I think you're the first ever person.
Yes, where?
that I've heard say
That was me.
as a kid you wanted to be a pastor. Okay, I want to hear more about that.
No, nothing much to say, to be honest. It was just that, and it was.
So
I don't know
what about
why.
being a pastor appeal? Was it like the
I have no idea.
healing the
Honestly,
sick?
I have no idea. I just felt like it was a good thing to be. But that quickly dissipated because it's like, I'm going to be a pastor. But it changed to like business because that was what I knew. My mom still was doing business, and I thought it was going to be interesting to do business. But then going to Great Lakes, also finishing secondary school, I was good at science. So I was like, okay, I think a good rule of thumb is if you don't have anything particular you're interested in, you can look at what you're good at.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, I'm good at physics. I hated chemistry. But math was good too. So I was like, okay, yeah, science. And I did a bit of research. I was like, okay, electrical engineering, co-op. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I mean, if I was going back now, I wouldn't do it.
What
I
would
would do
you do?
computer science, maybe.
CS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or electrical engineering, but with more coding courses.
Discipline. Even though if your long-term goal is to become an artist, you still go back and do CS?
I would, yeah.
Nothing related in that. Nothing
Because it didn't really affect like the art development side. It was like, okay, I just painted outside school, but it wasn't like a hindrance. If anything, it's like helping me because artists don't get paid, regardless of what you've heard.
We'll get to that. Talk to me a little bit about your university experience.
All right, uni was hell. You know that. It was cool, but I don't know. I feel like, so before I came to Canada, I wrote SATs, right? Because my goal initially was like US. So I wrote SATs twice.
I think there's a group of us that
Right, yeah. So I wrote SATs twice. I won't tell you my score. I don't even remember.
I wrote mine once, and I don't even think I ever checked for my score.
Right, yeah. I just know that US schools were too expensive, right? It was like, I don't know, $50,000 for tuition in 2012.
In USD.
In USD. Yeah, so I quickly scrapped that. But I don't know, watching movies, you get this idea of university as like this campus that you just go. It's a different world. So coming here, I expected that, but it definitely wasn't that.
I think a lot of people, some people I've also spoken to recently, a lot of people get their idea of the West from TV.
Yeah, 100%, especially back then.
Yes,
Jeez.
and I think a lot of people were disappointed, either like just disappointed or like pleasantly disappointed. Like it goes either ways, right? But I always find that when people see reality, they're like, "Oh, okay, this is a bit different than the movie."
Because I mean, growing up, you watch dumbass movies like American Pie, and you think that's what college is gonna be like. And you get here.
If your idea of college is based on American Pie,
I mean,
you're in for a shocker.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but I mean, getting to Ottawa was different. Ottawa was my first choice. I tried to stay in Toronto, but I didn't get the schools I wanted because I was taking a summer course, or maybe they didn't like me. I don't know. So I got Ottawa, moved to Ottawa, and then Ottawa's just held me hostage since.
hostage indeed. In terms of the actual university experience, what are the sort of like key moments in that, or key experiences?
Was weird because I feel like so I think in university you're supposed to socialize a lot, right? Build a network of people.
Yes.
But I don't think I did that much. So I didn't live on campus, which was already one of like
disadvantage.
Yeah. And then also being in engineering, man, we're just studying, especially if you're trying to like, get it. So.
And then added being an immigrant.
Yeah.
You had
this barrier.
It's a barrier, but you also had to get the best grade. So
yeah, exactly.
Your socializing almost felt like a
second hand
or even like a distraction.
Exactly.
If that makes sense.
Exactly. And I just, I don't know, it was back pain, So I feel like if I was going back to uni, I would do that a bit differently because, there's people in other programs. There's people in other, which I did a little bit of that. Joined a few clubs, but it wasn't like I don't think I was like 100% into it. But uni was cool. Uni was a big distraction though, like a big distraction from like life in general.
Yeah.
And then when uni finished, it's like the distraction is gone. Now you have to face life.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you can see the elephants in the room finally.
Right.
You took a gap year.
I did. Yeah.
What was that about?
So school was expensive, obviously, engineering,
Yeah.
international fees. But I was in the co-op, and I had a term. It was supposed to be 8 months, and then I figured, like if I stay here another 8 months to a year, I can, pay for the next semester. So I stayed for a year. That was it. So I just, that's why we didn't, graduate together.
And for co-op, those that don't know, co-op is like an internship. So you are basically paying your way to school with your internship.
Right. Exactly. So finished, saved up a lot, which was a lot. It was good. Co-op is good.
Yeah.
Do co-op.
Yeah.
If you're uni and you have the option, do co-op.
A lot of people are never put in that position. But for you, was that something you thought at the time, like, this is not normal? Or were you just like, you know what, I have to finish school. I can't wait on anyone. I'm going to figure out a way and use the tools I have to sort of like put myself through school.
Oh, you mean with the fees?
Yeah, with like
I mean,
paying your way to school.
Like I've always had this opinion of like, if it's not working out, maybe find a way to make it work out. So I never really dwelled on it like it was this issue. I was also fortunate to have the co-op, right? So there was a way out for me. So I feel like if it was different, then it may have been tougher, but there was a solution. So I'm grateful for that.
Great. Let's talk about sort of the most important thing, which is art. Where did that start for you?
So back to Great Lakes. Definitely that summer was like, okay, eye-opener. I painted for the first time. And it was interesting because I've been drawing for a long time, but I never painted. So I painted.
Was that an experiment, or was it like, I want to paint, let me paint, or like, let me just see what this painting is about? Like, what was going through your head when you picked up like the first like board, brush, whatever?
Right. So I had to take one more course to graduate. So I was like, okay, I'll take arts. I preferred it to like the other option. I don't even know what the other option was. So I took arts, and then I think it was the teaching that really. So the teacher really matters, man. It was like the teaching was different. It wasn't like this is a course you have to do. It was like, it was a whole world of like creation, and this is what other people, professional artists, are doing. This is how to think about.
So it wasn't
art.
Systemic. It wasn't like
she was very enthusiastic because
okay.
she was an artist herself.
I see.
So I forget her name now, which is sad, but that was because I had always been drawing, but like I never thought of it as anything. Right? I was just like, okay, I draw. I never even drew in Great Lakes much. But in that course, I started doing it more, and I realized like, okay, this is actually good for me in a way, or I'm interested in it, right? So over the course of uni, I would like practice and just like try to paint. But it wasn't until like, how I said uni was a big distraction, and then uni was ending, and then the distraction is going, and then you're stuck with yourself.
Yeah.
So art started to become like a therapy in a way, like because when you're with yourself, like you're thinking a lot, and then how I thought about all of it, or how I dissected all of those was art. So it was like, being in uni, dealing with like, you can't pay for fees, you're trying to finish school, sexuality, all of that. So it's like, art was like, that was when it started to take shape as like, okay, this is, I'm spending more time here. It's more spiritual than just practice. And I had spent the last 4 years practicing, so it was good.
Interesting. And when did you realize you were like good at art? Or like
I don't know that I'm good. Like I still look at my work, I'm like, you could fix something.
I understand that. Like there's still gaps, but when did you realize that, okay, I'm putting shit together right now? Like this is not like your everyday run of the mill like drawings or paintings.
I think Instagram has a big role to play in that, because it's like, so Instagram, I don't remember when I joined Instagram. Maybe I honestly don't remember, but I remember. So first it was Tumblr, and then Tumblr was like this whole thing of like, it was super cool. fashion. Everybody's just doing cool, amazing stuff.
You're like a Tumblr,
and you want to be a part of it. Right?
Did you ever post anything on
Yeah,
Tumblr?
100%. Like I remember one post.
Okay.
I had like 400 notes. Is it notes? I think it's notes.
I don't remember.
Was called,
remember.
But yeah, I remember
what
like,
was the
thinking that
post?
was cool. I don't. It was fashion. Like
Okay.
I wore some. Like no. I'm cringing now thinking about it. But it was fashion.
It's part of your journey.
Right, yeah.
So you had that shit on basically.
I had that shit on.
You had that shit on, and you posted it, and they were eating it.
It was a Pyrex Vision shirt.
Oh.
It was a fake Pyrex Vision shirt that I bought from God knows where.
Yeah.
But it was cool. So I remember like that being my first platform where I was like engaging, not myself as in, I'm not posting about myself. It's more like you're posting what you like or what you like to see.
You're expressing yourself.
You're expressing yourself, exactly. So there was a lot of art. And then when I moved to Instagram, I started posting some of the stuff I would do. And then, every little comment here, little post here, little this here, it starts to become like, you start taking it more seriously. And then I bought an iPad, best money I ever spent was getting an iPad.
Why is that?
For school and for the art stuff, because it allowed me to work anywhere, anytime. And I didn't need to have like, paint or anything.
Paper. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And then understanding colors.
Okay, so you are designing on your iPad. You're like,
Yeah,
you are basically
exactly.
drawing and painting on your iPad.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. I was experimenting, and digital mediums are very forgiving. Like you can make mistakes and just undo. You can guide yourself through stuff, but like traditional mediums are less forgiving. so it was good. It was a good step. So that was how I knew. I just feel like the more I posted, there started to be like an engagement. But it was also difficult because some of the stuff are very personal, So it's like,
Don't want to put this out
yeah.
there.
Good thing is like it's sort of vague in a way where it's not like specific. Nobody's coming to ask, okay, what's this about? So
explain this page.
Yeah, explain this. What was this? So it was cool in that sense. And then I don't know. I feel like as I dug deeper, I started to realize what specifically I wanted to like say, what I wanted, like how I wanted to paint, and then also figuring out all these other artists that are just like incredible.
And I have very vivid memories of being in class in uni, and you were barely paying attention. All I remember, I just remember the iPad, and I actually remember I think it was Procreate, and you were always drawing something, always doodling, always.
Yeah, I was a bad student.
Yeah,
but I didn't flunk class.
No, you did very well. You did very well. We won't get your diploma out here, but it has some honors basically.
Yeah.
But I just remember you always being on that iPad.
Right. Yeah.
And always creating something.
I was always lost.
And I think like it almost felt like you time boxed yourself with the class in creating something. So you would start.
So I had to finish something by the end of the period. Yeah. 100%.
And it was always
100%.
like some creature on a couch laying down. There was always like some theme to it. And I found that very cool. I was worried in terms of like, is this guy listening in class?
Yeah.
But obviously, looking back now, you're like, those are the formative, like the reps.
Right.
You're putting the reps in.
Right. Because it all starts with curiosity. Like if I'm not curious about it, there's no point spending my time. So I was like, I wanted to get better. So I was just always drawing. And then I wasn't drawing. I mean, for a good time, I was drawing stuff that I saw. But most of the time, I was just trying to articulate, right? Like, how do I turn whatever I'm thinking about into visual media? And oftentimes, like, words are sort of limiting. So I think that's why I turned to pictures. And the more I discovered new, like, artists that have done stuff, the more I started to understand how like visual language can really play a role in like storytelling or
and
just having.
Briefly, when did you decide to take it? When did you decide to take art seriously?
Right. Again, Instagram. I think like Instagram has really like come through in a few different ways because like art. I think now I understand a bit more about the art industry. I think in those years I was very naive, right? Like, which was a good thing, because when you're naive, you don't care about, or you don't even know the
pitfalls.
yeah, exactly.
You're more pure.
You don't know the right thing to do, so you don't really care. You just do
yeah,
whatever you want to do. So I was very naive, which was a very good thing. And I would just like I wasn't thinking about things systemically. I wasn't thinking about strategy. I was just like drawing and posting, which is a freedom that's like I try not to lose. But yeah, Instagram, a few people started seeing my work, and then I sold my first piece. Who did I sell my first piece? I think it was a print.
And what were you painting, or like when did you go from? Had you gone from iPad to like canvas?
Right. So I started on iPad. So I was doing a lot of digital stuff.
And I saw you were posting on Instagram.
That's what I was posting on Instagram.
Okay.
But on the back end, I have a lot of like bad paintings that I was just and never see the light of day. But on the back end, I was practicing. I was trying to. Basically, my goal was to paint what I did on my iPad. But I didn't know how to yet. So I was like trying to figure out stuff to do. So a lot of learning and stuff. But at some point, I started posting my actual physical stuff. And then now I don't even post like digital work anymore, which is great. But the digital part is still part of my process. But yeah, somewhere along the line, I think I sold my first prints. And then when I started becoming more confident with like the stuff I painted, I posted that too. And then, something sells here, something sells there. And then all of a sudden you're in a profession.
I like that. Something sells, that's like a quote, right? Something sells here, something sells there. All of a sudden you're in a profession. That's
all of a sudden now you're in business.
Get that on a t-shirt. Summarize your journey so far to me, like our journey.
Right.
Just like a summary of it. How do you assess it?
Right.
Because you have so much ahead of you, and people would see that because your work will put your work out there. But you have so much ahead of you. But like, summarize your journey so far.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been drawing for a long time, and not academically trained, but like just curiosity. I just picked up a pencil, and then art was just like something, right? And then at some point, art became something very important. It was more than just something you do. It was like therapy. It was like life itself. It was like, it felt at some point, and even now, even more so now, it feels like my purpose in a way. I know it's cliche. It sounds hella cliche, actually. But
cliche. A lot of cliches are true. So
right.
True, right?
But like that's what it feels like. It feels like I feel like it's something I'm always gonna do. It's how I process. It's how I don't know if it really makes sense when you say
it's like the lens you see life through.
Basically. The lens I see life through, exactly. Or just maybe articulating my experience in some way, or my hopes. And just storytelling, I think, is a beautiful thing. Like, especially if I have a note full of like just ideas I'm trying to get through. So.
That's what we're doing here, storytelling. So
yeah, right. Exactly.
I relate on that
exactly.
level. What was the first painting you sold, and what was that experience like?
Yeah, it was a small piece, like 8 by 8. It was like this.
Really?
And it's called.
Is it like those ones you put in the washroom, like this?
Yeah. the much smaller, like
the washroom
very small.
size. Yeah.
And actually, the person who bought it, I remember them telling me they didn't know it was that small.
Oh,
I mean, I did put the dimensions, but I guess it didn't translate that it would be that small. It was like 8 by 8 inches.
Wow.
And it was actually someone in Toronto here bought it. And I remember thinking, because Instagram, I just randomly posted it. And then he hit me up like, is this available for sale? I'm like, yeah, sure. And I think it was like $150 or something. It's like a small piece.
Yeah.
I was so excited. But yeah, that was a good thing.
Did you feel validated? Like that night when you went home, do you feel like, okay?
No, not validated. Like validated as in, okay, I'm an artist.
No, I'm an artist, but I'm on the right path.
Not really. I don't necessarily equate like something that gives you money as being on the right path.
The reason I ask is because if someone is willing to part with
pay for it.
Yeah, their money for something I just created like in my own comfort of my home.
Right.
That means
it must be important.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, maybe I feel like I've had this maybe again it's naive, but I've always believed in the stuff I did. I do, right? Like even if it doesn't sell, I'm like, yeah, I know this. I love it.
So like, there's a lot of self-confidence.
Yeah. So, but I was excited. It was like, okay, people love it enough to actually spend money on it. So that's good. That's a good thing.
That is like a very good feeling, right? Yeah. Tell me about some roadblocks you faced, and if there's any of them that has ever like pushed you to the point of, okay, maybe I don't want to do this anymore.
Right. Yeah. I mean, every artist probably has experience with this, but vulnerability is a big thing, right? Because most artists are talking about themselves to some point, to some level in the work, especially when they start off, because that's who you know best. At least that's the case for me. So I think at some point I was stuck on vulnerability, like how much do I share? But like the only work I was making was about like me and whatever was going on in my life. So I think vulnerability held me back a bit. Like I said, like, dealing with sexuality, coming out of uni, all of that went into the work in some way or form. So, deciding what to post, deciding what to share, deciding if to even make it, like nobody else has seen it, just me. So I think that has held me back. Even now, I would say now what's more holding me back is like, just, I don't know, I feel like there's a world that I'm starting to realize that is like the art world, and then there's, financial, all these implications with it. But yeah, at different points, there's been one or two things that's like, but you just gotta punch through, I guess. At least for me, that's what.
Yeah. Did you, in the moment, you felt that was just part of the journey, basically?
Yeah. It's inevitable, right? Like especially again, the work I do is sort of like based on my experiences. So it's inevitable that you're gonna talk about some things. It's inevitable that you're gonna have to explain something. So it just felt like, okay, you either stop now or you don't stop and you just keep doing it. So
yeah, I think you mentioned earlier that you grew up with also a mentality of you just have to find a way to solve the problem, right?
Engineering.
Engineering. Did the pandemic affect your art?
Yeah, huge. Jesus Christ. Yeah. This was 2019, right? Sorry,
2020. Yeah.
2019, sorry, 2020. So 2019, I finished school.
Yeah.
Again, no more distractions. Now you're stuck with yourself. Also, yeah, I graduated, and I was trying to pay off the debt I graduated with. And then pandemic is coming, like you're stuck at home with yourself. It's just there's so much going on. Yeah. So yeah, there was a lot of like, I think a lot of people felt this too. Like you're just stuck with yourself. It's weird. It's a weird thing. Like I'm like, I like time alone, but like the pandemic was different. Yeah. But it was good also in the ways that I haven't drawn as much as I did in the pandemic.
Even till now.
Even till now. I mean, this year I'm probably doing a lot more, but like it's intentional. Then it was like, okay, I just have there's nothing to do. Yeah. So like I'm just drawing a lot. And yeah, the series I'm doing now I started in the pandemic.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, that was like, I think it was key in like starting what I'm doing today. So
would you say the pandemic was good for you? Like it might have seemed bad, but ended up being good?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think for a few other people, it wasn't the same. Like I know a few people who lost their parents in the pandemic. So that was bad. But it stole a year or two from everybody, but it helped me like zone in, which was important.
Interesting.
So, and I was learning a lot.
So it gave you clarity.
It gave me clarity, yeah.
I love that.
That was good.
Let's talk about some of your influences and inspirations in your art. Can you talk me through some of them? Because I think consumption plays a huge factor in output.
Yeah.
But I'm so curious to know what are you could split it into both. You could split it into two, into influences and inspirations, or you could just talk me through. You could combine them.
Like growing up in Nigeria, I think we all had the same source for whatever it is we're consuming. Like everybody was getting their music from Channel O and MTV Base, Trace. Yeah. I wasn't even consuming a lot of like visual arts. I didn't know visual arts was a thing, which is a weird thing to say. Thinking back now, but like it wasn't a thing to me, right? It was mostly like music and now it's still mostly music. But coming here, like discovering painters like Basquiat, or I remember watching She's Gotta Have It is a TV show by Spike Lee.
Spike Lee, yeah.
And that TV show is great. It just shows you a lot of like black artists who are doing incredible stuff. That was the first place I discovered Chris O'Philly. It wasn't the first place I discovered Karen James Marshall, but it made me pay attention. And then I went deeper. I'm like, why haven't I been paying attention? But yeah, just so many, and all of these people are just contributing to an ecosystem of works that I feel like just incredibly important. And I think I'd like to do the same thing, or just maybe come close, because the works have really helped me. It's weird how like a picture can just help you clock some things or help you think.
Like open a new door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And music too. Oh God, Fela Kuti, Kendrick Lamar. I mean, now it's not as interesting because now it's all like
But everyone plays a part, right?
Yeah.
And it's not Kendrick of this year. You're talking like
I'm talking about like Good Kid, Mad City, Kendrick. Exactly. It's
yeah.
like Kendrick of this year. It's cool, but it's like there's a lot of like showbiz. Kendrick of that year was hungry, so he was working hard.
Which I usually find people put out their best art when they're hungry.
Yeah. And today, like, I think one of my favorite artists today is Toyin Oji Odutola. So she's Nigerian.
Okay.
And her work is beautiful. So even if you didn't know anything about it, like you would see it and you'd be like, oh, yeah, that's like, it's like beautiful in a, like you're overwhelmed type of way, right? But also when you discover the narratives behind the work, you even love it more. Like she does a lot of work on Nigerian heritage or Black and queerness, which are like very important, especially within the African or the Nigerian context. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
and there's also James Jean. Anyway,
okay. I'm trying to like dig into that. So you spoke about like some artists. I think Basquiat was like. I can imagine what it was like seeing Basquiat for the first time. But music is you spoke about Fela.
Yeah.
Any other like. Oh, right. Yeah, you have the shirt on. Any,
this was strategic.
Really, I love it. I love it. I love a well thought out plug. Anyone else that, or any other like type of music or?
Yeah, I mean now I'm just like, there's so much to discover. Right? Actually, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I haven't been to Nigeria back since I came in a long time. So I went back when my dad passed, but I haven't been back like properly. So one thing I'm curious to find out is like there's a lot of this. If you think about Nigerian music, there's only so much we know about Nigerian music, right? There's our history is limited.
Yes.
Like I know as far back as Mushin to Mohit and maybe Fela Kuti.
Yeah.
But then there were so many other musicians doing work. But
there was music like
there was music exactly.
Right?
So I'd like to like discover some of that. It's just cataloging or keeping this history has been difficult over the years. So
I like that. Does your engineering degree or like profession as an engineer have any like bearing or influence
right I
on
think
your
so.
art?
Yeah, I think
in what
so.
ways?
Maybe not in intentional ways. Again, I feel like nothing that has influenced my work has been very like intentional. It's just like it happens without me realizing. But in my work I'm using a lot of geometry. I'm using a lot of like angles and intersecting lines from here to there, and it may not be obvious at first, but if you TD exactly, you get vibes.
Yeah.
So if you look at my sketches or my reference, the drawings I do before I do the painting, you see a lot of like these measurements and lines, and I'm measuring angles, and I'm intentional about like what's the ratio of this to this and stuff like that. So I think that's where the engineering comes in. Unintentionally, but now I'm trying to explore like how it can come in intentionally. Like I'm trying to dig deep into like, okay, what is it from my science background that I can bring into the work, and what does that look like? Whether it be like how I make the work or the way the work looks itself.
Yeah.
So
that's a good segue because I wanted to ask, talk us through your process of creating a painting.
Usually starts with a drawing. Always starts with a drawing. And usually, I think 90% of my work is a drawing on paper. So I've told you about my obsession with my iPad, but it usually starts on paper because I feel more.
Could you maybe back up a little bit to inspiration?
Okay. What inspires the work?
What inspires the work, and how do you go from inspiration to drawing, and then that leads to a painting?
Yeah, so it could be different things, to be honest, man. Sometimes I just be like hallucinating.
Just be vibing. Yeah.
Sometimes I just be vibing and then you just think of something. But maybe I can talk about like the body of work I'm doing now, which is called Many Contradictions, Many Moods. And I think the inspiration of that is just maybe my journey with becoming, in a sense, where I'm trying to dissect my emotional landscape in a way. So a lot of the works feature is the faces. I feel like that's what people usually know as my work right now.
My favorite parts.
Right. So it's all these faces, and they look like multiple people, but usually it's just one person. But what I'm trying to say with this work is there's multiple sides to a person, and all of these sides can sort of agree. Like it doesn't have to be a conflict. Yeah. So I'm sort of dissecting what that emotional portrait looks like. And maybe literally representing that as a dissection or cross-section of all these images together. And, the inspiration comes from my experiences or maybe experiences of a friend. Eventually the work just starts off with a drawing somehow. And then I'm like chiseling through, doing multiple drafts, and I just end up with something. I'm like, I don't even know how I got here. Yeah. I mean, there's only, I feel like artists are always not in full control of the process.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Something comes from somewhere, and you just have to flow with it.
Yeah. So do you draw initially on your iPad and then canvas, or like what
so I draw on my my pen. Sorry, on my sketchbook. Yeah. Usually small, because I can grasp the scale when it's small. If it's big, I use skill. But I start with a small drawing, and then I transfer it to my iPad where I do a color study, which is why I love it so much, because you can literally do any color you want and just drop it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, when you're painting, you have to mix the exact same color, but on the formulation step, you don't have too much to worry about because it's just digital.
Technology, right?
Yeah. I mean, I spent about almost 2 years learning how to recreate the colors I used on my iPad.
I'm sure Michelangelo will have loved.
Right. I don't know if it would approve because but I feel like because I didn't have that art education, there's probably a lot of things I do that's like maybe a professor might frown at or something.
But I think that's actually what makes it unique.
Right.
That ingenuity. Yeah. Of it's not the customary way to do things. Right. But I figured out a way to do it and it works for me, sort of thing. Right. Okay. So we moved to sketchbook. What next?
And then when I'd finished on the iPad is the most complete version before the painting. Okay. But it doesn't have to be complete. Why I do it on my iPad is because, so before I didn't used to involve the iPad much. But what I found was when I'm working on the canvas, my thought process starts spiraling. Oh, maybe I should put a line here, or maybe I should put this here, or maybe I should, and then I end up with something I really hate, or I just get stuck. So I shifted to working solely on my iPad, and then when I finish with something, I'm happy there. When I'm painting, I'm just like a technician. Like I don't worry about like any thought that comes to my head. Maybe you should put a line here. I just mute it.
Really?
Because it's like I know. Okay, I'm already happy with what I saw.
You have
it's complete.
Your guardrails big.
Yeah. I mean, I still stray a little bit, but it's not big enough to alter the image itself. So when I'm painting, I'm basically a technician. I'm not creating. I may be thinking creatively in terms of material and like texture, but like not composition. So my iPad is just for composition and color study, and that's it. And then when I move on to the canvas, and then that's when I start this. I just be a technician until I finish. Really? There's no artist on the canvas.
And how long does it take you?
Now I'm quicker now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's growth. Yeah. Now I'm quicker. Usually it used to take me long, but also it means like you just have to put more time into it. Yeah. Put a lot of time. Like every weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no social life.
Those 10,000.
But I'm happy though. I'm happy with it. Like I wouldn't be doing. I wouldn't rather be doing
anything else. I get it. Don't worry. So you would do it again, basically.
Yeah, 100%. Like this is I was telling someone the other day, like this is, so I was talking to my friend last year and I was like, oh, what would it be like if you just went 1 year? I think I told you this.
Yeah.
You just went 1 year full throttle. Like you just go like,
you just go ham for a
just
year.
go ham for a year.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
forget about partying, forget about like, all the other stuff. Just like put all your time into the studio and see what it could be.
This reminds me of those Instagram ads where it's like, go away for a year.
Yeah.
Come back a different person. Like
yeah, exactly. It's like a gap year almost.
Exactly. And I'm like,
you just come back all like
and like
knew everything.
Sometimes like in the gym they say that that's a year and come back jacked like
after a breakup.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, that's that. Like I'm in thick of it. Like this is like my 4th month into it, and so far so good. Like the walls are filled up, and the good thing about it is I'm not taking breaks. I'm not breaking up the process. So I found that when I break up the process, coming back to it, there's this ramp up on understanding where it was I dropped off before. But if it's like every week I'm like, okay, back on it, then the process never breaks. And I'm also not burnt out, which is a great thing. So
that's beautiful. So you know how to pace yourself, basically.
Yeah. And then the year is not a thing of like, oh, if it doesn't work out this year, then that's it.
I quit.
No. It's just more so like, okay, let me just focus on like trying to bring these ideas to life.
Yeah.
Try to learn something new, like just and have fun with it too. So
you currently, and correct me if I'm wrong, you currently have a piece sitting in Union Station.
Yeah, bro.
And for those that don't know, Union Station is like the Toronto version of Grand Central Station,
right.
in New York,
right.
So it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah,
and this is like we're talking thousands to millions of foot traffic every day of people like seeing your work.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
Man, I mean, I remember when I got the email of like, oh, you got accepted. I was like, oh, because I when I applied, I was like, okay, first of all, I don't live in Toronto, so they probably would ignore it. But the requirements didn't specify that, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna just try anyway.
Let's do it anyways.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson to artists out there to
just do it. Don't
shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot.
No matter how far, whether you're like half court, even if you're out of the stadium, parking lots, shoot your shot, basically.
Right. But it's been great, man. I think like, meeting the other artists there, amazing artists, new city. This is my first everything in Toronto. I hope it's not the last thing. But yeah, it's been great. Like it was the best experience. I mean, I don't have much experience with this stuff, but this was the best experience. It was a great experience. Also, the care and the importance of the exhibition itself. It feels great to be a part of that, right? And it's not just a 1 month thing. I mean, it starts in February, but it runs, I think, maybe 6 months, right? So there's the first 3 months for the first batch of artists, and then there's another 3 months for another batch of artists. And this is the first year, I think, where it's been like that, but it's been growing, right?
And what's the exhibition about?
So it's about Black dreams and aspiration. That's what it's called. And it's basically, we're responding to the question, what does it mean to dream while Black? And, that could take so many different shapes. It's a diverse group of people. So there's immigrants, there's people who were born here. I think there's 12 artists in total, 6 in my cohort. So yeah, it's powerful. Also the location, I've had random people just message me like, oh, I saw it, like I saw your face.
Yeah.
I remember seeing my face on Union Station, and it's like Union Station too.
It's a pretty big deal.
So it's pretty cool.
What's the piece called?
It's called All Hands on Deck. So it's like these hands are building a ship.
Yeah.
And the idea of a ship or the symbol of a ship, especially to like Africans, it's something that's both empowering but also has a lot of like triggering history, right? It's like, okay, think about slave ships and what ships mean in that context, but you also think about ships as like this vessel that's gonna take us, to a better place. And I wanted to play on that, what's the word, duality or something, and really drive the idea that big changes aren't done by one person. It's like it's a group of people just coming together, putting hands together, doing small things that builds up into this big thing. You know, when you're thinking about civil rights, for instance, everybody's thinking, oh, Martin Luther King, but like Martin Luther King would be Martin Luther King, but without all the other little people that
that we don't know
little,
about.
Sorry, like all the other people that were also part of the movement. But so it's just changing the perception of what change requires. Right? It's like change starts with you. Whatever small thing you can do, whatever small part you can play, could ripple effect into something huge. So that's the general idea of the work. Yeah.
A couple years ago, I think it was
Receipts.
like sorry,
Receipts.
A couple years ago, I think it was like summer. I vividly remember the weather was good.
Yeah.
I think you were in Toronto. We went out to eat somewhere in the West End, and we had a conversation. And you shared something with me.
Oh shit! Yeah, I remember this.
What can you tell me a bit about that conversation?
So this was breakfast, right? I think.
I believe it was brunch. Yeah.
I mean, I basically came out to you, which which is always a weird thing. But yeah, that was it. I was like, Timmy, I have to tell you something. Yeah, I remember that. I had to do that conversation like a few times.
In your head, right?
Yeah.
Was that a theme around that time of?
It was a theme. Yeah, it was my coming out year for my friends.
Yes.
Right. For the audience, probably this is the coming out year. But like, it was an important thing. I think I feel like, especially being an artist and especially the type of things I want to talk about, it's necessary. Like you can't run away from it at some point. So, but I think there was a lot of like, being Nigerian. It's a very being Nigerian is one thing, but like being Nigerian that grew up in Nigeria is a different thing. So it's been a learning process. I think I feel like now it's sort of in retrospect because this happened like a few years ago and. My friends and family already have like, I'm lucky enough to have that. But I remember that, I remember dreading that conversation and then eventually happened. But it was the coolest thing.
Yeah, this is your first time talking about it publicly.
On any platform.
So I want to say thank you for that. And thank you for the bravery, I guess, shown to talk about it here. How long have you known, sort of subconsciously and consciously? Right. And what was that like mental journey of just like realization?
All right, maybe subconsciously, I've known for a long time. Like I've always known type of thing. It wasn't something that just happened like Nigerian parents or let me just say Nigerian parents because or Nigerians in general would have you believe like, oh, this is something you learned from the West or some stuff. Nah. Like before I came here, I've always known. But you're aware of the atmosphere. You're aware of the laws, like the very real laws that would rather have you imprisoned or dead.
For those that don't know, in Nigeria, where we're from, being homosexual is illegal.
Yeah.
And it carries a 14-year jail sentence.
Right. 14 years of your precious life.
14 years.
For kissing boy, can you imagine?
And there's some, nuances to that law, but I think you sort of get the idea of why it's dangerous to come out where you're from, which in itself is something crazy, right? So just navigating that, how tough was it sort of keeping it to yourself? And like, was that mentally tough? Like, did you almost implode, or was it just like you're living life, this, but it's not hard for you to sort of like keep this to yourself?
Right. I like that you used implode because that's honestly what it feels like at some point. Like I said, like school was a big distraction, right? But you finish school and then you're stuck with yourself, right? There was no excuse of, I'm trying to study. This is it. And then you're stuck with your family for pandemic, like 2 years and everything. And it's not like, also the implosion is sort of a mental thing, right? It's not a physical present, but it's something you've built up in your mind. And then what happens is you realize that it's a lie in a sense, right? Because I remember when I told my mom, I was dreading that conversation because I tried the night before, and then
that's one of the,
I chickened out of it.
That's one of my questions that I'm looking forward to the most. But I guess we gotta get to that now. What was it like telling your African mom or coming out to your African mom that you actually was living with you at the time?
Yeah. I mean, shout out to Mom C. She's cool.
Yeah.
Shout
out to Mom C.
She's cool. So I think that really helped because she's always been cool, right? But still, it's still a difficult conversation to have, no matter how cool your mom is, right? It's like, okay, because especially like we never like to disappoint our parents. Right?
Yes, yes.
There's always this fear of like, oh, the world is gonna crash or the world is gonna end or something like that. But you realize when you actually take those steps that it's actually not that deep. At least for me, I think there's people who, you know, I can't really say that that's the case for everybody, but I was fortunate enough to be in the case where, like, when I did tell my mom, it wasn't an implosion, right? If anything, it was just like confusion and fear for her part, and then she went to tell my brothers and my sister,
As parents,
because she didn't know.
Parents do.
Yeah, as parents do, snitches.
Yeah.
But it wasn't an implosion. And I think that was the first thing I appreciated, because I had spent like a lot of time dreading the implosion, and then the finale came, and it wasn't an implosion. It was more so like a soft, like, oh, okay. You know, questions, you know, as questions go.
Yeah.
It was very
were
different.
there any wild questions your mom?
There weren't any wild questions. There were questions of like, oh, is it me or is it? You know how Nigerian parents have to like.
Yeah, she
blame
basically
themselves
she
or
internalized
whatever.
it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So she thought something she had done
Yeah.
had. Oh,
I'd
wow.
caused it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the best reaction I could have hoped for. Right? Confusion, which is like normal, right? You're not used to it. It's like expect that, you know, you don't know what to do at that moment.
Yeah.
But it wasn't anger or backlash or like it wasn't hate. So that was really important. Our relationship is great, right? Our relationship is even more, even got better. Like we're sort of like friends more than like, you know, we're more than son, but like we're sort of friends. And then my sister too, my brothers, we're all cool. It was, I don't know, you know, the implosion, that's why I focus on the implosion word, because that's really what you imagine it's going to be like. You imagine it's going to be like an explosion. You imagine it's going to be like, but if you're lucky, it's not.
Did that reiterate your faith in your family? I'm sort of like glad I'm in this family sort of thing. Or was that not the case?
Right. I don't think I thought of it like that too much. I think for me, it was mostly about what was the next step for me, right? Because I feel like, you know, I had this sense of time skipping or time just passing. I don't know if you remember this question. We had a conversation one time, and I'm like, can you see 5 years into the future? Like, or do you know what that looks
I
like?
think I remember
right?
that, yeah.
And for me, it was black. Like, I couldn't see anything just because I hadn't allowed myself to, like, create something there. So this was more so an effort for me to, like, have the power to create.
To shed light
right,
on
exactly,
your path.
exactly. To see what, you know, because it's something like I felt like I have to eventually do. I'm a terribly honest person. I don't have to lie.
Yeah.
So like I eventually like I had to do it. So it was more so like, okay, you know, it was the best reaction I could have hoped from my family. Again, being Nigerian, but it was, you know, it definitely like, oh.
I want to like sort of get the correct facts, if that makes sense. Of so I don't know if you want to dive more into like the nuance of it, because when you say coming out, people have like one thought about it. Where is there like nuance to like your coming out?
What do you mean?
So in terms of you, I think you mentioned that you're not just, you don't lean one way, right? Like there's a sort of like nuance to it. There's like,
okay, labels. That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of labels.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know. It's weird.
It's like, so would you label it as fluid? Like what was your?
Not fluid. I would say maybe more gay.
Okay.
Right. If we're doing labels.
Okay.
But you know, I feel like it's weird because there's so many different ways you can have a relationship.
Yes, yeah.
So, but if we're talking about like sexual orientation, yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay.
But,
and what has it been like trying to navigate this space, especially at an older age, or like coming out at an older age, rather than like people...
shit, Jesus, you make me feel old. I'm fucking
not like a walking stick. No. Like a lot of people, like especially in this part of the world, 14, 30, like there's ages are like,
because you're in a different community.
Exactly, and it's like from then, right?
Yeah.
But for you had to keep this for a while. You had to go through the process of telling your loved ones and close friends.
Yeah.
And then now you have to like go into the world.
Right.
So what was that like?
I think I'm still in the thick of it, actually. Right. I'm 27. It's been a few years, right? So I mean, for the general public being anyone who's not really close to me, but like it's been a few years. I'm just like navigating life as it comes. Art helping me on that journey. So it's not something that I really can speak definitely about because still figuring shit out.
Yeah.
Like everybody else. But it's easier because now you don't have to worry about like a certain awkwardness or dishonesty. It's more okay. What we gonna do now? Like so, like that. Talking about that 5 years now, there's a bit more like
yeah.
Exactly. I mean, there's still things like having to do with like extended family and stuff like that, but like that's their problem, not mine.
Extended family. Oh my god, the best. Have you had any negative experiences so far? Or it's been
not that I know of, to be honest, man.
I like that you say not that you know of.
Yeah,
because
I mean, there's probably something, but like I don't. I'm also very introverted, so like I don't have a lot of. I guess there hasn't been a lot of opportunity for that to happen.
That makes sense. What of positive experiences?
Yeah, a lot of positive, like positive experience.
Thank you.
All my friends are cool.
Yeah,
love them. I find myself in a very like critical point in my art career where a lot of the things, like going back to Tony Oditola, right? Tony Oji Oditola. She navigates a lot of these concepts in her work, which I appreciate. I think it takes a lot of bravery. Also takes a lot of care because you're telling these stories and you have to be specific about or maybe picky about how you navigate that or how you present that to the general public. How does the viewer consume that? So I find myself in a place artistically where the work I'm trying to make now is very personal. Not just about queerness, but about family. A lot of it is inspired by the Nigerian experience, right? And I'm drawing a lot from my experiences with, my relationship with my dad, my relationship with my siblings, feeling like a black sheep, but not a troublesome black sheep, just like a black sheep in a weird sense, where you're not actually causing trouble, but like
they're different.
Yeah. And I'm excited about it. Like I'm very excited about it because now, it's one thing when you're trying to make work, but vulnerability is holding you back. When that is no longer holding you back, I think that the potential to make something really good.
It's like the shackles are off.
Yeah. So the work I'm doing now, I want to process it properly. So I'm just excited about the work I'm doing now because of it. So I say that's one place that has really like benefited. So like I find myself very like indulged and free in the studio these days. Like I'm excited about.
Do you feel like you almost like grew into your own skin now? Like
yeah, exactly. Like I'm taking up space inside my body.
Yeah, you know how in some movies it's like someone's walking, but like their ghost is behind them.
Yeah,
and then it catches up to them, kind of thing. So it feels like
and
now
it's goosebumps.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm sort of excited, or I mean, I'm just excited about the work I'm doing.
I think you alluded to this, and feel free, like if you already answered this, make reference to that. But where does your sexuality and art intersect?
I mean, there's intentional, or is intentional the right word? But maybe there's points where it could be as straightforward as like, oh, I'm talking about something specific in this piece. But it intersects as much as it does when you go out. Like, it plays a big role when you're, socializing or you meet someone. It plays as much of a role in that because that is your lens to the world. That is how you experience the world in some way or shape or form. I mean, there's the intentional portion again where you're telling specific stories, but then there's the unintentional because that has just shaped your perspective. And then whatever it is you're trying to say in your work is based off of that perspective.
That's true.
So I think, it's inevitable. It's just like, it just bleeds into it. So.
That makes sense. Personally, I think you're a beacon for a lot of people. And
this pressure.
This sort of leads into my next question. No, you're not Martin Luther King. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
In terms of being an immigrant, being like an artist, being a creative, what advice do you have to people or what advice do you have for people in a similar situation to you? Of maybe still, I'm not saying telling everyone to come out of the closet, but like if anyone is in
Jump
that,
out.
if anyone's in that mindset you were,
Yeah.
what would you say to them, or what advice do you have for them?
Right. I'll say maybe be easy on yourself, first thing, because the mind plays tricks, right? Like implosion, you're always thinking about, your mind is working overtime to destroy you. So I'd say first thing is be a little bit tender on yourself, be a little bit easy on yourself. I'd say find people, like find a community of people that just lead with love, like if you're lucky enough, I think you can always find that in places. It's maybe more difficult in certain places, but if it's possible, find that, and then just let life from there. Like again, I'm still in the thick of life happening, so I don't have all the answers, but I think self-care is the first thing. Like self-care is important. How you treat yourself spills into how you treat other people. How you see yourself spills into how you see other people or see the world around you. So have a very optimistic view on life. Like think you're the shit, because you probably are, in your own world at least. And yeah, just leave with that, and then everything else just happens. Like you can't really control everything, but the things you can control is like, okay, self-care.
Be nice to yourself.
Self-care is important, guys. Self-care, skincare, healthcare, everything.
All the
self-care.
Yes.
Self-care is important. Yeah,
that's true. You recently lost your dad.
I did.
What was that? The moment you found out, what was that like? You mentioned he was. I guess I'll let you talk about this, but the moment you found out, what was that like?
I mean, it was a weird experience, because that was like the closest loss I've ever experienced. And so I'm actually doing 2 works right now centered around the topic. But like, I think my dad was a very reserved person, not just for me, like from the other kids. I think it was very close to my sister, daddy's girl, whatever. But he was a very reserved person, and so my parents weren't always together. They had some issues. So they were separated for a good portion of their marriage. And obviously I'm a mama's boy, so I was closer to my mom growing up, which also means that I grew up with a sort of a perspective of my dad from my mother's lens, right? Which is a thing that happens often, actually. But when you get to like 18, 20, 21, you start becoming a man yourself. And you start realizing like, okay, there's nuances to all of this stuff. So I think as I got older, I started to like seek out a specific relationship with my dad. And I started to get to know him as, a man, myself as a person, as opposed to like what I knew growing up, which was very important. I'm glad that happened before he passed. I wish there was more time for it to even go further, but like I'm glad it happened, because it's important. It's like you grow up with a certain perspective, but at some point you have to like decide what your views are, and establish a relationship. So actually, the work I'm doing now on adjacents, because there's always something being done, but it's about that. Like I said, family relationships, siblings. It's about that. It's like the dynamics of family and the interplay, maybe coming from a Nigerian perspective, but I think a lot of these things are universal. Yes. Like you don't have to be Nigerian to understand what that barrier looks like. And just exploring that, and again, conversation, thinking about what it means for me and my growing up and everything. So I remember like going back home. So my dad had cancer, and by the time he died, he was a completely different person physically, right? And it was weird, because it happened so quick. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, it was like it was 2019 to 2019, man. It was such a very messy year. Yeah. And then everything, pandemic. But I remember that whole experience was like, it was one of like, okay, I wish I had more time, but I'm also glad that something started before it happened. It's an interesting one.
And what was that relationship when you finally did establish a relationship with him? What was it like, and how long did it last before?
Yeah, it was maybe a couple of years, I would say. Okay. It lasted for about a couple of years. And the thing is, I still have WhatsApp messages. Like he would always ask me about the arts, and I was sending pictures. Like I have some from Great Lakes.
So it was
too.
positive.
It was positive, yeah. It was great. It was positive. I think also when you get to later years in life, there's only room for positivity, right?
That's true.
Unless, you know.
That's very true.
But it wasn't a thing between. It wasn't something that maybe started negative and then turned out positive. It was never negative.
Okay.
It was just like my views were skewed because I was looking from a specific lens. But as I started to like get to know him as a person from my own lens, positivity started to seep in too. And then, you know, I'll send him like my report card, and then he would ask me to send him pictures of what I'm painting or stuff like that. So it was cool. It just wasn't. It wasn't long enough, I think. But it is what it is.
And so you didn't hold any negative feelings towards him?
No. God, I remember when, like, it was actually because the whole thing, I wasn't like sad or anything, but when the coffin started to go into the ground, I was wailing. Oh my God. I was like, what was that? I don't know.
Why did you think that is?
I actually don't know. Like, it maybe reality set in as like, okay,
It's gone.
this is actually like happening. And I couldn't control it. Like, it wasn't one of those things where like, okay.
Yeah, it was
like, it just started. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh shit. I was ugly crying. It was so bad.
Oh man.
But reality sets in, and then, you know, mortality sort of reminds you of perspective and all of that stuff. But yeah.
Do you have any regrets in the whole situation, or do you feel like a victim of being in between two people?
No, not really. I think some things just happen the way they happen, right? Like it's not also not a thing of like, oh, my mom forced that lens on me. It just happens like that, right?
Yeah.
I was just with one person more than the other.
Sort of like the casualties of like a separation, right?
Exactly, casualties of war. And it just happens like that. So I mean, it just is what it is, to be honest. Like,
And
there's no regrets.
Yeah, I can imagine. How does that relationship affect who you are today?
Right. I think I'm a bit more open, a bit more intentional. I don't want to spill too much about the work I'm doing, but a bit more open, a bit more present, right? A bit more intentional about like the type of people and energy I surround myself with, and honesty. Getting to really know people, or getting to actually have deep connections with people, and just get to know them.
Are you more forgiving, would you say?
Yeah, more understanding.
We're heading into quick fire questions. We're going to do some quick fire questions now.
Okay.
What's the most expensive painting you sold? Description, not price.
Okay, shit. Most expensive painting I sold. That happened recently, actually. So description. There were two. They sold for the same price. So one of them is called Pepper's Ghost.
Okay.
So it's actually a painting of this figure. Again, in the usual style of the multiple faces, and the figure, similarly a female figure, has like a powder mirror, you know, like a makeup powder mirror, and she's sort of gazing into the mirror, and the mirror is sort of projecting stuff back. There's sort of a ray of light that's coming back on her, and also behind her you can see all these figures, maybe scary figures in a way. And the basic idea, so the painting is called Pepper's Ghost, and Pepper's Ghost is this thing in theater where it's an illusion technique. So there's a mirror underneath the stage, but the audience can't see the mirror. And they project sort of like a light or an image on that mirror, and then that mirror bounces it back on the stage.
Yeah.
So the people in the audience are going to look at the stage and see a ghost, but it's actually nothing there. It's just like an illusion technique because of that mirror. So basically what I'm trying to say with that is oftentimes we project insecurities upon ourselves, but they're not really there. It's just our mind playing tricks, minds playing tricks on us. And, you know, using that makeup mirror as like, you know, this is topics of beauty standards and self-perception and all of that. It's like a whole thing. But
that's really good. 3 people you would love to sell your art to.
Sell my art to? I don't have any specific person. I think it's art.
Like, who would you like your art hanging in their house? And you're like, yes.
I actually don't. I don't. I feel like anybody, like it should be for anybody and everybody.
Your art would be for anyone, but is there anyone that like you are, or you love, or you just feel like I would like to gift this person my art, basically?
Right, maybe my sister-in-law in Texas, because she's expressed an interest before.
Okay.
So like, yeah. Her.
But no one like, I guess, globally known, just more.
No. I mean, if anybody's interested, I think it's for anybody.
They can get it.
Yeah.
The best painting you've ever made?
There's no best.
The most important to you?
I think the world is going to decide that because it's outside me. Most important to me, it's weird because every next, or they're so tied to each other that it's more of a. I'll say the collection I'm working on now is my most important. So as a group of work.
Okay.
Yeah, the many contradictions, many moods. Yeah.
Is there any that you enjoy the most? Enjoyed making the most?
This one.
Okay.
Right, because it's the one I'm doing right now.
Okay. I'm really looking forward to this, by the way, because you've...
No, but you've seen, like, it's a growing thing. So
Okay.
a lot of the stuff I've posted is part of that collection as well. It's just I contribute new works. I make new works that just add onto the family. So most of the faces are into that collection.
That makes sense.
But it keeps growing, so that's what I mean.
That's good. Engineering or art?
Art.
Yeah. What's your dream city to live in?
It used to be Tokyo, but I don't know Tokyo. I've never been. So I'm going to stick it with Montreal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could still be Tokyo because they dream, but I guess...
Yeah. I mean, I think I have this idea of Tokyo, but reality is often different, right? At least I know Montreal.
Right now it's still a dream, right?
Yeah.
When you go to Tokyo, it
might be different.
Dream, right?
It might be different. But I know Montreal and I love Montreal. So Montreal. Sorry, Toronto.
What's your favorite restaurant?
See, we're talking about this recently.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
You don't have one?
Maureen's restaurant, my mom's restaurant.
I love it.
Like I've been to the restaurant we went to together. Yeah, that's my favorite.
Hanmoto.
Hanmoto, yeah. Yes. But like I don't go anywhere.
Okay.
I be cooking at home and shit.
Okay, what's your favorite meal to make? Let's flip that.
Spaghetti.
You love spaghetti.
I've been feeling like a chef.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, spaghetti.
Okay.
Also because I can't really cook much else.
Well, necessity, right?
I can. I'm underselling myself. I can actually cook very well.
Okay. For anyone out there that's interested in seeing bio skills, hit him up. What's your favorite gym workout?
Bench press. Because I'm strong at it, I think.
And you have a warm chest.
Fuck off. Bench press, yeah.
Your favorite clothing item, accessory?
Shoes.
I think also for those that don't know, Bayo is a bit of a style icon. He's pretty modest, but once he plugs his IG, just take a look.
Actually, there's nothing on there.
But you said your favorite clothing item is your shoes.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite pair of shoes at this moment?
Right now, yeah. So there's this pair of, I got them last year. I wore them at your wedding.
Okay.
Toga Virilis. So it's sort of like a sandal type shoes. They're just so unique.
Sexy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love it, 100%.
We do a couple closing questions here in the show. The first is when you're back here in a certain number of years or however long it takes,
right,
and you've made it, what does that look like?
I've made it. I like that. And you've made it. Yeah. Okay.
What does that look like? Yeah.
What does that look like? What does make it mean?
Yeah, or like when you come back and we're talking again, you have like your security, you pull up in a GMC, like
Well, I'm hoping that I know I'm still going to be making work unless I somehow lose my hands. In which case I'll be using my feet.
That's a very odd,
I'll use my feet
odd thing to point out.
I mean, you never know what can happen.
That's a bit morbid.
But I hope I've had my first solo exhibition already. I know I will have my.
Where would you like? What city? Dream city for your solo exhibition?
I
know what
a city not too far for my first solo.
I know what it is.
Where?
New York.
No, actually, no.
Okay.
I feel like New York is a different beast that I'll hopefully go to later. But for my first solo, I think I would love it to be Lagos, or Toronto, or Ottawa.
Okay.
Yeah, Lagos would be dope.
Okay.
Because it's like home.
I like that. So yeah, what does it look like?
Yeah. Okay. So I've had my first solo exhibition. I'm still painting. I'm financially stable. Financially stable.
Once more.
Financially stable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surrounded by 5 years, right? Is it 5 years?
Any number of years.
5 years.
Everyone has a different journey, right?
Maybe. Okay. Never mind.
I said X years, so it's any number of years.
Any number of years. Okay, maybe a kid, maybe a few kids. I don't know. Maybe like later, because like again financially stable, because it's a prerequisite. Yeah, just I don't know. Happy, happy, yeah, happy is cliche because it's not a constant. Anyway, but family, surrounded by family.
Okay.
I already said solo exhibition. Yeah, yeah.
That's good.
And whatever the world just wants to offer me,
You're open to it, right?
good stuff only, good vibes only.
The final question.
Yeah.
Who do you think would make a great guest for this show? And the caveat is you have to get them for us. Or help us get them.
So this has to be someone I know.
Yes, but someone that you also think will make a great guest.
Jesus.
This part, people tend to think about it this part, and you have time to think about it.
This is if you keep this recording, I'll probably be stalled for like 10 minutes. Okay. Yes. There's someone called. Wait, you said I have to get them.
You have to at least try and get them for us.
This is tough. Let me think. Who do I? There's so many people though.
Take your time.
There's so many people. So many people doing crazy stuff. This is tough because I'm trying to think because who.
Honestly, the last guest probably took like 2-3 minutes to think about it, so you have to.
I've already taken like 5, no?
Yeah, no. We're still at like 2.
So, Slime.
Yes.
Yeah, so Ahmed Sulemi, that's one person. Okay. Photographer, writer, even though he undersells himself, in my opinion. Abdul, who somehow speaks Japanese, and his phone is in Japanese. He's Nigerian, by the way.
Abdul Ganiyu?
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, yeah. So his phone is in Japanese, which is hella weird.
Yeah.
But he understands everything there.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Oh, yes. My friend Caleb.
Tell us about Caleb.
Or Daniel. Like, I don't know. They do a lot of like these like projects. So.
What kind of projects?
Some of them are philanthropic.
Okay.
Some of them are like startups type of thing. Especially Daniel. I think he does a lot of that stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Great. Tell the people what you have going on right now and sort of plug yourself, your social media, all that stuff.
What do I have going on? Work is killing me right now. Okay. I've been complaining about that. But other than that, I'm just stuck in the studio. Okay. I hopefully have an exhibition coming at the end of the year in Ottawa. And if you want to find out more, my Instagram is Orims Yomi. So you're gonna write it like here.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like
it's gonna be somewhere. I guess. Yes. Like here. Exactly. Maybe all four.
So it's ORIMSYOMI.
Okay.
Sorry, not at Instagram. Orims Yomi. Yes. Or website Y0MI. So 0 not O. Y0MI. Like the number 0, MI at mi.com. Okay.
That's it. Okay. Thank you so much, Yomi Bayo. This was amazing. I really enjoyed this. And thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.